My preoccupation is to arouse and stimulate the different instincts in the youths of this country so that you can discharge your generational duty to your fatherland.
The constitution that we are operating in this country today is just a prescription for chaos. It's just a prescription for impoverizing the masses of the people. It's just a prescription for suffocating the potentials of the young generation.
As Nigeria's centennial celebration draws near, perhaps the nation's biggest challenge today is rekindling the flame of patriotism and reawakening nationalistic sentiments among the younger generation. Past failures and the struggles with the burden of her enormous potential as a richly endowed nation have created some disconnect between generations of Nigerians. The ethos of selfless sacrifice and love of country championed by our founding fathers is sadly dying out among our young people.
Only a small percentage of young Nigerians are disinterested about the country, about not having love for this country. And even if you find them not exuding enthusiasm about Nigeria, it is superficial. It's only because the Nigerian social system is still backward to what these young people are exposed to in other parts of the world. But there's a lot more for the young generation to gain from digging their foot in Nigeria, dig their foot in for a revolution in this country.
Born on the 17th day of September 1933 to Mr. and Mrs. Isaac Adesoye Braithwaite, Olatunji Akintunde Braithwaite is one of the few surviving icons of an old generation whose heart still burns with the flame of nationalism.
Dr. TUNJI BRAITHWAITE I have known for several years, more than 70 years. In fact, we grew up together. We went to the same primary school together, and we both qualified almost about the same time. He qualified in law, I qualified in medicine.
TUNJI BRAITHWAITE studied law at the Council of Legal Education, London, and was called to the bar at Lincoln's Inn in February 1961. He returned to Nigeria in March of the same year and was enrolled as a barrister and advocate of the Supreme Court of Nigeria.
When he came back from England in 1961, and things were not so bad as they are now, and you saw people, why are these people suffering and everything? Even though he had just got enrolled to the law. At that time, there was no law school, so he was just enrolled into the bar, enrolled into Nigerian bar. And he had a good practice. But all the things, he's a very sympathetic person. And when he believes in something, it's very difficult to change him.
He began practice immediately, setting up his chambers, TUNJI BRAITHWAITE & Co., and went on to distinguish himself as one of the brightest litigation experts, retaining an impressive clientele comprising several multinational organizations such as Swissair, BASF, Hext, and Julius Berger, among many others. Some of those notable cases include the State versus Fashoyin, State versus Eyo, State versus Olabisi Ajala, State versus Obafemi Awolowo, Chief Mrs. Fumilayo Ransom Kuti versus AG Federation of Nigeria, and the Chief of Army Staff.
Well, Fela case actually was more recent. I know the date, the exact date that Kalakuta Republic was burnt. You know Kalakuta Republic, that is Fela's empire. It was in 1977, February 1977, I remember that date. So that's why I said that was recent. I had been established as a trial lawyer. So it was Fela's elder brother who came to this house to instruct me to take up the defense of Fela. It was a very terrible thing. The court record shows that about 1,000 Nigerian soldiers, attacked Fela, a civilian, unarmed. The only thing Fela was armed with was his marijuana smoke. But of course, Fela, being a philosopher, he was a philosopher in the real sense of it, used his music to attack government, and these were military juntas, and their civilian accomplices or acolytes. So he was mortally hated, if I can borrow that language. So the junta actually wanted to liquidate him. So when the brother, Professor Oliko Ekuti, he and his wife, Sonia, came here and asked me to take up a last case. It was a very challenging case. The military junta did not like it. They actually directly even requested that I lay off a last case because I ignored them. The judges performed below standard. No one had the courage to put the military junta where they belong. That it was not just them. But one good consequence or result of Fela's case was the fundamental human rights law that Nigerians now enjoy. It was because of that case that the Nigerian establishment were compelled to begin to observe fundamental human rights. Of course, the judiciary failed. They lacked the nerve to adjudge the military junta liable. They've started finding all sorts of nonsensical legal rubbish. The king could do no wrong. Can you imagine? An independent Republican country had to go into the darkest spot of English criminal law, that the king could do no wrong. That was the basis on which they absolved the military.
Never one to shy away from responsibilities and challenges, Dr. Braithwaite became a social crusader on a quest to improve the well-being of the masses and of the Nigerian state following the Fela case. In 1978, he formed and single-handedly funded the Nigerian Advance Party, NAP, with the motto, "Together we take the destiny of Nigeria in our hands." Upon this political platform, he contested the 1983 presidential elections.
My preoccupation is to arouse and stimulate the distant instincts in the youths of this country so that you can discharge your generational duty to your fatherland.
Nigeria is one of the few nations in this world that is almost totally endowed with everything. And yet, sadly enough, oddly enough, curiously enough, Nigerians are hungry.
My first contact with Dr. Braithwaite was when he launched the NAP, the Nigerian Advance Party. At that time, the celebrant was telling us that he was going to fumigate Nigeria about the rodents and the roaches and the mosquitoes that were infesting Nigeria. Then I joined the school in laughing at the man. I said, what kind of manifestos are these? But today, for the benefit of hindsight, we have recognized the rodents and the mosquitoes and the roaches that are depleting and squandering our commonwealth.
Over the years, he has continued to champion the cause of the downtrodden.
I was never really fearful, but until that time, there was an interview that I saw in a friend's house that he gave, and it was too defiant. it was too bold. It was too much in your face. And after the interview, I felt that was a little bit too hardcore.
Another time I got worried was when he went over to Borno State, Maiduguri, during the Abacha regime.
In the peak of Abacha's self-succession obsession, I was one of the two people who challenged him, who when everybody else was not willing.
Because Abacha had cowed everybody. They were really afraid of him. Nobody was ready to challenge him. He said that, okay, no other party could challenge him. So he was thinking, okay, I'll just go there. But he challenged him.
The passage of time has in no wise slowed down his pace, nor quenched the fire that burns in his heart for a new and virile Nigeria.
I think Dr. Braithwaite is exceptionally lucky. But he's also an old man who has not allowed age and time to weigh him down in terms of contributing to the rebuilding of a country that has been destroyed by a coterie of army generals and their civilian collaborators. And anytime we still have cause to call on Dr. Braithwaite, even to be on the firing line, he never hesitates for a moment. And I remember last year when the Goodluck Jonathan administration sent armed troops to the streets to chase Nigerians who were protesting against the illegal removal of the so-called fuel subsidy. Dr. Braithwaite was one of those old men and women who came out to make a point that Nigerians have a right to protest peacefully. On that occasion, he and others were tear gassed, but that never discouraged him from pursuing a cause he believed in. So, to have someone like Dr. Braithwaite around in this society, for many of us, is a ray of hope.
An astute businessman, Dr. Braithwaite is the author of several publications, among which includes the internationally acclaimed bestseller, Jurisprudence of the Living Oracles. A firm believer in God and the Lord Jesus Christ, he became born again in the year 1983.
My grandfather was an early missionary. In fact, he opened up the entire Ekpe, Jebu, part of this Lagos, to the gospel. He was the first pioneer. So we come from a line of Christians. But you see, if you are born into a Christian family, if you come from a line of Christians, yes, you are born into it, but regeneration cannot be attained vicariously. That is, cannot be attained